Good morning, good evening, good night. No matter where you are on this planet, I'm sending you love and light. Check me out. Sometimes the devil will remove suffering from a person's life because it's out of that suffering that a lot of people turn to God. Sometimes your calling can be so great that you could be lost in this world because you never had to endure enough pain to call upon a higher power, thus discover your true power and purpose, leaving you inevitably and permanently lost, damned to hell. This is how some people get lost in the flesh, because from a certain perspective, they got blessed with a life of no pain. From another perspective, they got cursed with a life of no pain that condemned them to eternal suffering of the soul. Controversially, and in the way of the paradox, lies another spectrum where sometimes your calling can be so great, God will step in and allow things to be destroyed before you. God would allow you to go through certain turmoil, certain suffering, to the point that it's repetitious in its nature until you actually learn to command your own nature, till you actually learn the lesson. And this is why certain people go through certain treachery in relationships and friendships, like significant other relationships, and in a relationship of a friendship or even family, you see this repetitious abandonment, failure in a relationship, the close. And it's because God is protecting you. This is not to stroke your ego. This is just to give you a perspective on why you specifically might be going through certain suffering. It's because you ain't learned the lesson. It's a covenant that goes above anything a man can create or agree to. And that's God. And when you start, depending on who you are, when you break that covenant by putting other things above that covenant, other people, other material, God will allow it to be burnt down. And by that, I mean, God's not going to compel evil out of things and people, but it will certainly move aside and not protect you from the pain that these spirits will administer upon you if you're spiritually blind, which you surely are, because you wouldn't find yourself in that situation. You see? So it's a paradox. You got to be careful what type of person you are, and you got to know what type of person you are to even be careful. Yeah. When you can kind of recognize what spirit has been entertaining your life the most, you can kind of understand why things are going awry, while things are, just not going the way that you plan, in a manner of speaking. You can sometimes feed relationships and things so much positive energy, and they still bite you. They still burn you. They still hurt you. They still betray you. They still double back to something else that was more of a tormentor nature. They still go back to that evil versus walking in the light. And that's just a lesson that you have to learn, not to put something above God. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not being good to God, God won't be good to you sometimes. That's just what it is. And it's a special kind of relationship if you really think about it, because God don't move like this for everybody. But when you can notice that God's offended by your actions and it's allowing certain things to get destroyed, you got to question, how much do you actually love me, God? Like, you must really love me to be trying to get my attention like this. Like, to allow me to hurt. This is a perspective. But to allow me to hurt, you know what I'm saying? And this in my heart, you know what I'm saying? When you knew I was in love with this thing or this person or whatever it was, I was so invested, and you just allowed it to do this to me. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? And it's because God wants you. You have favor in the kingdom, and you must not put something above that. It's hard to like really walk through life, but for some people, you will actually find yourself like walking through life in a relationship with God. Like, it's not the same as a human. We all need people. People need people, but sometimes God is going to be that thing for you, not to be on some super religious, but from a spiritual nature. Sometimes like some of us are married to God, where it's like God's keeping you out of certain situations and relationships. Like, you're literally alone, and it's because of your purpose. And that can hurt. But that's the path. You know what I'm saying? Will you answer the call? It's not to say that things will be permanently removed from you, yada, yada, yada. But for some of us, you are walking in the desert. You are actually alone. And I understand that. And I just want you to understand why. It's because God has favor for you. God's in love with you. You need to fall in love with God before anything else on this planet. And before you debate that with me, just look at your life. Look at the losses you've taken. Look at the unnecessary treachery you've come across from other people. And you never did nothing to compel it. How does that happen? It's God showing you something. All that spirit, all that intuition, and you're still blind. You're blind to one simple fact, that you keep putting all this above God. Soon as something into your life, soon as material, soon as money, soon as sex, soon as that man or that woman into your life, whoever you are, you put them above God every time. And this is why it fails. Don't put your job above God. Don't put money in investments and fame and clout above God. Don't put your marriage above God. Don't put nothing above God, bro. God created all that and allow all of that to have its connectivity, have its energy, bro. Have its purpose, have its place, have its unison together, dog. Have its song, bro. Walk within one frequency with the universe, the unified mind, God. And when you do that, you will start to see everything else piece itself together. That would be my perspective. I love you. And I'm going to end this with my mantra. Good morning, good evening, good night. No matter where you are on this planet, I'm sending you love and light. I'm gone.